We're the largest exporter of coal and gas in the world. As the world moves to net zero, we've got arguably the best solar, wind and biomass resources in the world. So the world needed our fossil fuel, the world's going to need our renewable energy resources. The big difference is that it's easy to export fossil fuels, but it's really hideously expensive to export renewable energy or even to export hydrogen. What that means is you're going to have to locate production of things like green iron. So at the moment, we export our iron ore, our gas and our metallurgical coal, say to China, and they make the iron there. In future, when you're making green iron, which you're doing with hydrogen, you'll make the green iron close to the source of renewable energy, and that's in Australia, and in the case of iron ore, that's going to be in the Pilbara or in South Australia.
Australia is facing challenges in meeting its own renewable targets. Why is it reasonable to think Australia can plug its own clean energy gap as well as those of key economies such as China?
Oh, look, absolutely. Very straightforward. The trouble we're having connecting enough renewable energy at fast enough pace to the current East Coast energy grid is a combination of getting the approvals, getting transmission lines through farmlands or whatever. None of those problems apply to the opportunity to make green iron or green aluminium or green fertiliser or green transport fuels, because the opportunity is basically in the northern half of Australia. That's where the solar resources are best, that's where the wind resources are best. So all you need to do is build the renewable energy infrastructure, put a transmission line very short to the relevant factory. In the case of green iron, that will be near the Pilbara resources or the magnetite iron ore resources in South Australia. So it's a completely different proposition, and there's plenty of capital around to do this. There's plenty of supply of windmills and solar panels. So the differences, the issues on the East Coast have got nothing to do with this opportunity.
But there is a problem, isn't there, when it comes to the East Coast? Fortescue, Woodside and Origin have put green hydrogen plans on the back burner in recent months because of the high cost of electricity.
Oh yes, but they were talking largely about exporting hydrogen. The world's not ready for that at the moment. The use for hydrogen here is to replace metallurgical coal when you're making green iron. You need hydrogen to make transport fuels, to make fertiliser, so it's an intermediate good. And the price of renewable energy is going to be a lot cheaper when you're producing that renewable energy in the northern half of Australia, completely separate from the East Coast grid. I mean, maybe some of these opportunities will occur connected to the East Coast grid, but the bulk of them will be well away. So the problems you're hearing on the East Coast have got nothing to do with this opportunity in front of us now.
If Australia can pull this off, it provides more of an opportunity for Australia to value add. What would that mean for the national economy?
Oh, this is an opportunity under two headings, if I could go to that. One is, if we realise the full opportunity, we could help the world reduce its emissions by up to 10%. So Australia, just like Australia was crucial to the world industrialising using fossil fuels, so Australia will be crucial to the world decarbonising, because it's really, the work we're releasing today shows that it's really hard, if not impossible, for the world to decarbonise without using Australia's effectively endless renewable energy resources. Now, at the same time, this is going to require the sort of investment we saw through the mining boom, about 5% of GDP. That investment, that economic activity, that productivity will boost the Australian economy enormously. So if you're interested in economic growth, if you're interested in jobs, if you're interested in productivity, this is the way to guarantee that for the next 20 or 30 years in Australia.
Do the policy settings need to be changed in order to realise the potential? And what does the Future Made in Australia Act and Donald Trump's plans to roll back the Inflation Reduction Act mean for the opportunity you're outlining?
So the Future Made in Australia, the net zero transformation stream, half of that, is completely aimed at realising this opportunity. It talks of providing support to make up for the fact that you've got an uneven playing field at the moment. That is, green iron, for example, or green transport fuels is competing with those products made with fossil fuels. Those products aren't paying for the costs they're doing to the damage to the environment and the promotion of climate change. So there needs to be a bit of support there. There needs to be a bit of support to realise that the people who go first will learn a lot of lessons that others will benefit from, but they'll be probably costly lessons. And of course, government could help out to make sure that we've got the infrastructure in place. So yes, a fair bit of work for government to do, but all envisaged in the Future Made in Australia. So the net zero transformation stream, if you read the Treasury's public interest framework, it is clearly targeted on this. Now, the Trump obviously will take the United States in a different direction, but 2 points to make about that. One is the US was never part of this story anyway. The US is largely going to be self-sufficient, so none of the market, I mean, we don't export any coal or gas to the US now. We won't be exporting any of these energy-intensive green exports to the US. In terms of, I mean, the issue is what effect does the US position have on other countries as they move to net zero? We'll have to see. But, you know, China, Japan, Korea, in different ways, are all expressing interest to us in wanting to invest in these opportunities. I really doubt that's going to change because of what's happening in the US. And of course, what's happening in the US, these things come and go. So where the US will be in 4 years' time, we don't know.
Rod Sims, thank you.
Thank you very much.